It was shocking because I thought that in my brain, this was it. Like, this is going to be my future. I'm going to be here forever. For that to be taken away so early in my career, it was just a rude awakening. What doesn't break you makes you stronger, right? So there are experiences that are there you learn from, and you can always grow through them. But it had to happen for me to realize that, yeah.
Hey there, it's Dr. Ryan Corte, and I'm looking for North Carolina licensed optometrists or those interested in becoming licensed in the state of North Carolina to join my team. If that's you or somebody you know, reach out to me on social media or email me at ryan.court1@gmail.com. Now, enjoy today's episode. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Ryan Reflects. My name is Dr. Ryan Corte, and today we're going to keep the fire going here with somebody who honestly I've gotten to see a number of years at annual meetings, particularly in the LensCrafters sublease space. Dr. Fallon Patel, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Ryan.
Yeah, it's an absolute pleasure to have you here. You and I met a few years ago, and I've just had the opportunity to really get to know you better and embrace all that you're up to in optometry. But for those who don't know you, Fallon, go ahead and just kind of dive into a little bit about yourself.
Okay, thank you so much again for having me here. So for those that don't know me, my name is Dr. Fallon Patel. I practice in the Greater Toronto area, so I am Canadian, and I have 5 subleases with LensCrafters. And I've been in this environment with EssilorLuxottica since about 2012. So I began my days early with Sears Optical, if you guys remember Sears Optical. So that's where my journey began. I graduated in 2011 from the University of Waterloo. Shortly after that, I was in all these different modes of practices, private, side-by-side, corporate optometry. And I just, had a great segue and opportunity with Sears at the time. And fast forward to today, it's flourished into such a wonderful opportunity.
Born and raised then in Canada, or is that somewhere that you ended up landing and going to school?
Yeah, yep. So I'm born and raised in Hamilton, Ontario, which is a city known for Steel City.
Okay.
Back in the day, it's a very blue collar kind of environment or workplace. And so my father actually emigrated to Canada from England. Prior to that, India. So our background, I'm Indian. My heritage is Indian. And so my father was doing his PhD in England and a university in Hamilton, McMaster University. He received an agreement to work through the university, and so they called him over, and our entire family immigrated to Hamilton, Ontario, which is where I was born.
What was that like? Like, how old were you? The family came over, but what was that like kind of being immigrants to that region and then dad being in the setting that he was?
Yeah, it's a great question, actually. It's really shaped who I am today. So I'm an only child.
Oh, no
And
kidding.
so I'm an only child. So a lot of people don't know that about me. And so my father had to move here on his own. He had a great opportunity through McMaster as a postdoc. That's what it was. It was a postdoc opportunity where he was doing research and took on some, doctorate students under him within the lab, he would call it back in the day. So he's a physicist. So that's what he did. And my mother was a home wife or a housewife. And so being, I guess, like an only child and female and in Indian, culture is not very common. So I kind of felt it was harder for me growing up because it wasn't the norm. Most of my friends and families had multiple siblings. A lot of their parents, they had family around. We didn't really have a lot of family. My mom had to immigrate her entire family from India to Canada, and the rest of my father's family was in England. So when he came to Canada, they really came on their own. And so I remember the days, like the stories my father told me, and him finishing his PhD. Our parents didn't come from a lot of money. And so back in the day, they had to pump gas, go to school, morning till afternoon, then start their second career, 6 till 12 p.m., pumping gas, finishing their doctorate or their studies. Like that's what life was for them. So they worked very hard to, provide a opportunity for their future, like for me and our generations to follow. And so they took that leap and came to Canada for that.
Wow, that's incredible. I mean, and just to see that kind of work ethic instilled in just the environment that you were brought up in, how did that kind of shape your pathway leading into optometry school? Like, what did all of that look like as you were going through high school and undergrad and kind of molding that conversation about what are you going to do when you grow up?
Yeah, that's a great question too. So growing up, coming from that Indian household, my father had really high expectations of me in terms of my performance and grades. I always felt like I had really big shoes to fill. He was a physicist. Over time, he actually made the jump to entrepreneurship himself. So he had his own company where he was making ultrasonic equipment. And so he was just kind of this trendsetter. Like no one in the family had his even, finished their education. Maybe one other brother of his, he's one of five, did engineering. So he was just somebody I just felt like, oh my goodness, I need to do something because this is my father who has done so much for himself. And my mother, being a housewife, she regrets it. So she made the decision. Well, she was kind of forced because she was the eldest sister to get married early because she had all these other sisters under her that also had to get married after. But as the eldest goes first. And so for her, she had to gave up her university education. So she dropped out after first year and married my father. And that was her, she regretted that. And so for me, she was really the one that kind of pushed me to do more of myself, become independent, for as a female, maybe even in our culture, being financially independent is really important, having your own career path, right? They saw me as someone who had equal opportunity to a male, which was really hard for someone coming from that background, because there are a lot of differences being male and female. But for them, they kind of had some modern, I was fortunate enough for them to have some modern thinking where they, did not instill that in me. And they kind of always believed in me and told me I could do anything I want to do. So optometry, how did that come about? So in high school, I knew I loved sciences, but I also loved fine arts. So it could have gone either way. Like I could have gone to art school. It really could have gone either way. Like those were my top two passions. But I just didn't have a role model in arts. And I did in the science realm, right? We're Indian. A lot of our family friends are doctors. So actually, I was fortunate enough to be around a set of family friends. And these individuals were about 10 years older than me. And it was a brother-sister duo. And the brother had become a medical doctor. And the younger sister had become an optometrist. Now, she was the type that, she had better grades than her brother. And she chose optometry. So she had every opportunity she could have picked. In Ontario, I don't know if you know, but it is really tough to get into anything here in terms of medical, dentistry, optometry. The seats are really limited and it's really, really tough. So that's why you may see a lot of candidates go to the US or abroad. You might have had a lot of Canadians in your class, right? And so for her to choose optometry, I just always wondered, I'm like, why? Like, that's so incredible. She chose this because I think she felt she could have a good work-life balance, be independent. It was a good career choice. And for me, the moment that I realized I wanted to be her, I wanted to do optometry was we were at her house one day. She came home from a work interview and she was wearing this really cool, like custom tailored baby blue suede suit after her first work interview. And I just, coming from the background of independence, wanting to get your own feet on the ground, like that was the person I wanted to be. Like I just loved who she became. And that was, that was it. That was the reason.
So she's in our profession. Is she still practicing
Yes,
to this day? Have you guys stayed
she
in
is.
touch?
She has, no, we haven't. I know. I hope someday she hears this message, but we lost touch many, many years ago. She helped me get into optometry school. She wrote my admission letter, but I haven't kept in touch with her.
Yeah, that'd be a
Yeah.
nice little circle back just to check in and
I
be like, "Hey,
know.
by the way, I mean, especially with all that you have accomplished, so you figured it out. Hey, I'm going through this journey. I'm a female with no other siblings, coming from an Indian culture that I have a mom who supports me, and I need to define what I need to do with my career and my life, and I want to have that control. And I applaud you with that, because it's not easy to go down that pathway. That was probably a pathway less traveled, as you had referenced, at least based on everybody that you had in your community at that time in life. And now you're at a position, and we'll get to it, but you now a multi-location practice that's thriving. So during optometry school, you said you went to Waterloo, is that correct?
Yes. Hmm.
Okay, what was that experience like? So it is a little more challenging to get a seat at Waterloo. I was not aware of that. And then what was that experience like staying in in Canada and going to school there, and then of course transitioning out into the workforce?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So in Canada, Waterloo is the only school that we have. There's only one, English speaking, and then the other one is a French speaking one in Quebec.
Hmm.
So going to Waterloo for my undergrad, I chose to go there. Like I could have gone to McMaster, the school that my father was at, for free, but I didn't want to live
Mm.
at home, so I wanted to move away, and so I did. And at Waterloo it was. And the idea was to go there for their pre-optometry program and get into optometry school. It was a great experience. I met some of my best friends, even till today, are from my undergraduate program, and even my pals from my class are my loving friends. Um, Experience wise, I don't know. It really taught me to be independent because I was away from home. So I learned a lot of skills, I would say. And I think it's a phenomenal school, like a really great school year round. It has a really good math program. There's science. There is a computer science program that's very popular. Like when I was there 20 years ago, Bill Gates would come to recruit from this school. So it was like
Ooh.
a really great, yeah, it's a nice school. I'm very proud to be to have gone to this school, but I wouldn't know any different because I haven't compared it to any other scenario. Um, yeah, getting into the school too, I kind of knew like my grades and my score, the outcome, what it would be. So yeah, so it's just been a great experience to be there.
Now,
Mhm.
yeah, you obviously have a number of doctors on your team, and we'll get into kind of your journey after you got out of school. But I'm curious, have you had the ability to hire from Waterloo and then also from some of the US schools, and you've had to talk to these doctors about their preparation for Canadian boards? Have you seen any similarities, any differences, or like what have you observed during that process?
Differences for sure. Yeah, because when you can imagine if you've been trained at a certain school, when you hire a candidate from that school, you know how they think. We all think the same processes. So we versus somebody from a different school, they've learned a little bit differently. So pros and cons, and compiling it all together has been the best thing because we're sharing resources and knowledge from different schools and backgrounds. So I think I actually had an opportunity to do an externship in the US. So I was in Mesa, Arizona for 4 months, and that was really great. And I think in terms of disease and the things that we see, US is far more robust. You see a whole lot more stuff. Versus in Canada, we don't see as lot. We're probably more on theory. They're very strong on theory, but in terms of practical, we might not have the cases, to see to practice that. So that would be the subtle differences. But overall, I would say, not an overly big difference. We have something called bridging program too. I don't know if you have that, but we also, Waterloo had a bridging program. When I graduated, there were a lot of seats. Now there's not very many, but they're supposed to be for internationally trained individuals, either in ophthalmology or optometry, that can use this bridging program to come to Canada to practice. And so I actually have a doctor who was an ophthalmologist in China, a pediatric ophthalmologist who works with us. And she's just, it was different for her to pick up refraction and things like that.
Sure.
Yeah, but now she's so well versed in it, and she has a really strong following. But yeah, those are the different ways that we kind of integrate doctors in our group.
It's really interesting that maybe it's just the way that the westernized diet is of the United States, that we're having more more disease-based situations, at least in the States versus Canada. The truth of the matter is, though, yeah, we got to be able to take care of people, and you never know who's going to walk through the door, and you want to be trained to that high level. In regard to bridge programs, we have them. We absolutely have them. I think there's just a few. I've definitely have received a number of messages from optometrists that are international, and they're like, "Hey, I want to come practice in the States." And I'm like, "Well, you have to figure out either A, if there's a bridge program that works for you, or B, you got to go through the whole process." And so it's not exactly copy paste by any means because of our legislative profession. But when you came out, then, so you graduated. When you came out, what did you said you bounced around a little bit. Walk me through that journey. I'm curious what that kind of start to your
Oh
professional
my,
career looked like.
yeah. So it's funny. My first day of practice, I worked for a doctor, love her, in downtown Toronto. So this was in the financial district. We call the Path, which is a city under the city. If you've ever been, it's
Mm,
crazy. Yeah, it's like a
I
walking
never have been there.
city under the city when you're in downtown Toronto. And my first day, she had called in. She's like, I can't make it. Can you come in a day earlier, like, and take over my load? I'm not feeling well. So it was like day one, like I'm seeing patients every 20 minutes. Like I just had to make it happen. And so it was like rip the Band-Aid, let's go. But it was the best learning experience. I mean, I probably would have been the one every hour for a couple months. That's how we usually start our doctors out. But that was my first day in practice. And this was in a side-by-side setting in downtown Toronto, heavily medical, practice. And then some other opportunities, LensCrafters. I was an associate at a LensCrafters location. Ironically, those
Nice.
are the ones I now own. Yeah, like 7, 10 years later, that happened. Yeah. Yep. So I was an associate there, private practice. I did many as well. So dispensing, full scope care. So I've tried it. I've worked in a lot of different settings. Yeah, and it was
Yeah,
like where I was working 7 days a week. I don't know about you, but back then when I graduated, the market wasn't very good. And I was probably seeing 2 patients a day sometimes. I had to work 7 days to make ends meet. Yeah,
no,
yeah.
I mean it's truly in your DNA. I can just tell just from communicating with you and knowing you, you're a hustler. You work very hard, and so 7 days a week was just par for the course, and you've built it out to now where you've built the platform that you have, you built the practice that you have. When did you make that decision then to first kind of venture into the Sears world?
That just came upon me. Yeah. So if you were to have known me back in the day, you would not have think you probably wouldn't have known that this would have been, my desires because I never expressed it. So it's always just been opportunities that have just come up and I've just said yes. I don't think I really was ever that sure of myself when I first graduated. And even that hustle mindset, I don't know if I'm proud of that. I feel like that shouldn't happen and it shouldn't happen today if I knew the skills, if I had the knowledge and training now, if I would not repeat that again, right? Like there's a better way to do things. But when I first started out at Sears, yeah, it was just an opportunity that came up. It was in a popular mall in a neighborhood that I was residing nearby. I applied for it. I got the location. From one turned to three. Like the opportunities just came up from the higher, like the leadership team would kind of recognize this is somebody who's invested in their practice, and more opportunity came, and so that's how I got my footings in the door there. And I learned that I was probably in my second year of practice when that happened. So that was really early on. Yes, I had to learn how to create like a business name, number, interact, payroll, HR. What's and in Canada we have things like CPP, EI, unemployment insurance, pension stuff we have to apply to. And back in the day, it was all manual. You had to kind of crunch the numbers and submit. Um, so those were the things that I really didn't know anything about, and I had to learn it. Marketing, I had bought a book on Google dummies for or dummies for AdWords, Google AdWords. You know that yellow book? Do you remember those yellow books? It'd be like for dummies and Google
Oh yeah,
AdWords. I bought a book.
they're still
Yeah,
out there. Yeah, the
there's
Four
still out
Dummies
there.
series. Yeah.
Yes, that. Yeah. So I remember finding that, and I thought that was golden, and that was golden. Like we were putting $1 in and getting patients in. We were just, it was just so much easier back then. And now, like I wouldn't know a thing back there in the Google Ads space. But yeah, that's how life started. Yep.
Only 2 years in too. So you're working so hard for the first couple of years, having all those different experiences in different clinics and different modalities, and then landing on something that worked for you. And we're going to get back to kind of what you're up to as of lately, and figuring out ways to do things smarter, not harder. But there was a point where Sears essentially you were notified Sears is
I,
no longer going to be
my
doing.
goodness. Yeah.
They're going to be shutting down opticals. Where were you when you found that out, and how was your reaction?
Yeah, I was early in my career, 2 years into that Sears sublease, and that happened. And I remember it was just a call. Okay, Sears, they're closing. You know, you're done. I'm like, what happens? And it's just closed this one location, and they closed one by one. So my main one closed. It was shocking because I thought that in my brain this was it. Like this is going to be my future. I'm going to be here forever. You know, those are the feelings and thoughts I had, and for that to be taken away so early in my career, it was just a rude awakening. But I learned a lot from that experience, and I had to pick myself back up and, you know, find another opportunity and take my patients, you know, to a nearby place, you know. But yeah, it was hard, but also, you know, what doesn't break you makes you stronger, right? So there are experiences that are there you learn from, and you know, you can always grow through them. But it had to happen for me to realize that. Yeah.
Well, that was completely outside of your control,
Yeah.
and these things happen, whether you own a private practice, a sublease, whether you're working for somebody else, things happen, life happens. You could work in a private practice and all of a sudden, your rent is doubling or tripling in the current space that you're either leasing, or if you own something could happen with the local regulations. You could have, natural disasters. We had a hurricane come through Asheville. I mean, things happen. So how did you pick yourself back up? What steps did you take to get just one foot in front of the other and keep moving in the right direction?
Yeah, I remember calling my dad. I remember calling my dad. I'm like, Dad, this is what happened. What do I do? And I was married at the time too. I had my husband,
Hmm.
who's also great in business. That business is his background, so he's been helpful throughout this journey. But I remember calling my dad and telling him this is what happened, and he said, "Oh, okay, it's okay. You know, don't worry. You'll figure it out. You'll find something else, and it's a part of life. And don't worry, it's okay." Like I just remember him being calm, you know, and that kind of helped, you know, the calmness of it all. And I guess because I had support via my husband, he was actually, you know, kind of the bread earner, paying for our mortgage and things like that, because he had a really great steady job from the beginning. So it's been really helpful that way. But yeah, I think having the support really helped me. So knowing that I'm not going through it alone, I think was really helpful. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think in any scenario that you can possibly remain calm, especially in the midst of chaos, the better off you can be. I mean, we all can overreact to things that happen in life, and it's good that you had, your dad, your husband, people to lean into. But even if you didn't, there's no other way, in my opinion, to just go about things and just lose your mind and just panic. Panic doesn't help anything, right? Sounding the alarm doesn't help anything. And so I'm glad you're able to do that. How long did it take you then to take all that you had built up in the Sears sublease space and then identify the opportunity with LensCrafters, or was there a little bit of a gap in between where you started working
There was a
again for
gap.
somebody else? Okay.
Yeah, yeah, there was a gap because I had at that time I knew Sears was going under. So I knew I
Hmm.
had to shift out. And LensCrafters opportunities for me were not they were not readily available back then. They were very hard to come by, very few. A lot of the doctors that were in these locations are usually in for a good 20 years. Like so they very rarely popped up. But that was so here's I should backtrack a little bit. So while I was on Sears, I had the opportunity of being the OAC. for Sears. And so this was 13 years ago, 13, 14 years ago. I would be going down to what they would call the Rona summits, and we'd be in full auditoriums with LensCrafters, Sears, Target, and Pearls at the time. And this is where I saw the aha moment with LensCrafters and the potential. So being in those auditoriums, we were the underdogs with Sears. We, they would put up all of our trends and report like, sales quotas and kind of rank them side by side. And you would see like Sears and Target actually did very well back then too. Like I remember their growth numbers were so insanely high. But you could just tell the type of people and the caliber of the doctors and the community within the Sears pack. I just felt like that's somebody who I wanted to become. Like I wanted to be a LensCrafters doctor. So from that exposure, I knew it's a great opportunity. And so when one finally came up, it was several years after actually. I didn't get my LensCrafters sublease until 2018. So
Oh, no kidding.
I worked as an associate, again, doing different things, different places in the industry, having to pivot a little bit until that opportunity came. And then I went for it and I luckily got it. Like it was not easy for me to get at the time. Yeah.
Well, LensCrafters as a brand is, I'm sure, very grateful that they did work with you and select you. And I'm sure you had moments, though, where you considered private practice and opening cold or buying a private practice during that stretch. How did at least your exposure to the OAC and understanding a little bit of a peek behind the curtains of the potential of a sublease kind of outweigh maybe the decision to go down the route of a traditional brick and mortar private practice?
Yeah, I know. I ask myself that question all the time. And I think for me, it's the feeling of being a part of something bigger and greater. And then also, like, I can't unsee what I saw and know. The frameworks, the business acumen tools, like, I can really say, the organization has refined me. Like, just the insights that you get, because again, I've worked for competitors. I see what their leadership team is like. I see what their tools are like. They are not, the best. And so for me, it's just, I didn't want to to take that leap on my own, knowing that that I wouldn't have those resources, if that makes sense, because I was not confident in myself at the time, for sure. And so sticking with the sublease and the LensCrafters sublease has actually turned out to be very great for me. And so in terms of opportunity, it's fantastic. In terms of remuneration, it's fantastic. And in terms of the business strategy and the acumen tools that you learn has been really great too. So I think when I'm asked that question, I think it's always just being a part of that bigger network. And when I came to AllDocs actually a few years ago, that's
Mm-hmm.
when like I was just like, these are my people. I've been to so many different groups, optometry, CE, and organizations. I'm sure you have too. And it's just different. I don't know. I feel that everyone's just so kind, welcoming. There's just a mindset, like a being in the group that I just felt like really, really well received. So here I am.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. We have to be intentional and different when we run a practice that we don't control the optical sale, right? That's transitioned over to our partner LensCrafters. So I feel like the actual business knowledge of the group, especially to be successful at a high level with 7 days a week coverage and not selling glasses, well, you have to think outside the box. You need to kind of double and triple down on certain strategies and work collaboratively. So I couldn't agree more. I'm glad you did though, right? And so you took that first sublease and you continued to, did you have like a little bit of the Sears business plan, or did you refine it, or what did that look like as you took over the first lease and then you started to look into growing, which you now have how many locations again? Was that 5?
And now there's 5. Yes.
Yeah. So
Yeah. Yeah.
what did that look like? What did that process look like?
Yeah, it's always a journey. Each year, I feel like I learn something new as we all are evolving on our paths. When I first started with the LensCrafters sublease, it was similar to Sears because we had tab. I was familiar with all the tools. However, the people were different. Like people in the organization were a little, a notch up in terms of the quality of the talent. And the expectation was higher. And the deliverables, like 7 days a week. Sears wasn't 7 days a week, right? And understanding the importance of that. The same day walk-in traffic was a lot more. And so there is a different pace, definitely, with taking on a Sears sublease, or sorry, a LensCrafters sublease. So yeah, the initial phase wasn't very difficult because the location I had wasn't very busy. To be honest, it was in a slower mall. So here I am again struggling. But I wonder if was it me? Was it an internal thing is why I struggled, or was it the opportunity? So regardless, I think of everything as a learning opportunity. So it wasn't easy for me. I still had to learn how to train my staff, how to, scale things up better and build more profit to the clinic. Like you said, how much is there on basic eye exams when you're not dispensing in a sublease location, right? And wages are going up. People want more. Doctors want more. It's hard to get doctors if we're not paying them well. So there's all these things that I really struggled with that for probably the first 5 or 7 years, right? Like in certain locations, it takes time for that to flip, right? It takes sometimes 5 years before you start to get on the other side of that growth trajectory. So it took me a while for that first location, and now it's one of my best locations, and it's doing very well. But
Little diamond in the rough, and you figured a
yeah.
lot of things out along the way. You reference every year was a new challenge. What are some of the challenges that you had at least ran into, and then some of the lessons learned as you went through that process?
Yes, a lot of that has come even in the past couple years. So understanding it's really who, not how. So
You like the
hiring,
book? Have you read
I
that
like the
book?
book. Yes, I have. Yes, I have. I've read that book. It's exactly correct. And 10x is easier than 2x, right? The other book that he has. These are simple theories and mindset shifts that you need to have, but they're true. So I'm always thinking, why isn't this working? Why are we not, improving this number? What can we do differently? But sometimes it's just easy about bringing in the right who to channel that, that growth and to see that happening. So I'm at that space right now in my business rather than, trying to force situations to happen in the organization and force numbers to go up. It's more of, who can I bring in? What specialist can I bring in, or specialty person on my team to handle this so that we can really grow, right? Like, so for example, we had to get a call center last year, something simple like that, right? Like who, and then I had to find a lead person to handle the call center. Like you always need a lead, somebody to handle it all, or else you're
Mm-hmm.
managing everything. And so
Mm-hmm.
I had to remove that, create more management teams, and delegate as much as I could out to people. So that's where I'm at right now in learning how to get better talent on my team.
Well, I love that. So then it sounds like you have probably taken on a number of different challenges, and over time, maybe you tried to do it all. And as of recently, you're supporting yourself with the right people on the bus, getting the correct individuals to really help your business grow and flourish. I have loved a lot of the content you've been putting out on social media, LinkedIn, Instagram, and you've made a nice little shift and pivot into some pretty cool thought processes and tools and ways. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, exactly. That really is a reflection of me and my journey too, and what I've come to realize. As I mentioned in the last couple of years, I've been taking some business mentorship programs, and not in optometry, but understanding that all businesses are the same. The light bulbs have just started to really come off for me, and this is where now in our business, we have a certain challenge where we don't get data and tracking as quickly as we would like. Myself and my manager have been using AI for the past year and we've changed and we're moving fast, but the team isn't there because they're not using it every day, and we need them to do that so we can move at a more rapid pace. And then there's the training component we're trying to systemize as well. So I am trying to share this now with people because now my day-to-day job is helping our doctors grow on our team. So if you're on any of our calls, it's really about mindset. How can we think differently, believe in ourselves differently? It's a lot of overcoming those challenges with our doctors to help them grow. And so we decided to create a software to help us stay organized, like the system that we can have with AI in it to, let's say we prompt, we are setting a goal for contact lenses to move the needle. Susie, you're down two to your goal today. Here are some suggestions that you can do to stay on top of your goal. So just to be a little bit more on top of things and have that real-time suggestions is where we're moving in the direction of. And as I'm investing in this technology to be built, we are planning to white label it out to other optometrists to use as well. So
that's pretty cool.
And a part of it is also, it really bothers me when people say they can't be profitable in their practices. It really bothers me because I know you can. And yeah, it hits me because I feel that I know as a clinician, I didn't have any business acumen tools, right? I had to learn and educate myself to understand how it works. It's not hard. It's just that we have not taken the time to learn about it, like as clinicians, and we're all thrown into the business world, right? We are all business owners, and I don't know why we can't have these programs in the schools, because I feel like if I had this when I graduated, I would have had more opportunities, or I would have felt more comfortable going on my own, or maybe I would have been more confident in partnering with a sublease model. But I just feel that I didn't have the tools to be successful, and so I struggled all this time, and that's what really kills me. And I have a lot of friends who confide and tell me, "Hey, I'm not profitable in this location, or overall, we're not making any money." Like, how is that possible? Like, we're not in competition with each other. There's so much opportunity in the creative space, especially with optometry, myopia, dry eye. There's so much innovation in our field that I think it's a me problem. Like it's a you problem when you're not profitable, and it's your mindset around cash flow, money, and all these things that you have to work around, and really go through that mentorship process to be profitable.
It sounds like you truly have spent a lot of time thinking about this evolution, this next step in this change. And I'm with you. I think that the schools could do a lot better job of preparing new graduates for real life optometry practice ownership, or even just key performance metrics and ways to be successful. I would imagine with the growth and development of artificial intelligence, we're going to continue to hopefully see that these tools and resources, especially what's available at the school level, will continue to grow. Who knows? I still think there's a lot to be said about having people come in like both of us who own practices and, sharing some of our struggles, sharing some of our lessons learned, sharing some of the things that we've had the most success with and growth with over time to these students, or at least educating them on some of the basics. But it sounds like this tool is something that, so you said white labeled. What would that look like then?
Oh, well, it would be as a SaaS opportunity for the independent, or the practice owner, and possibly if you have multi locations, we can or a bigger corporation, we can white label it to them and fine tune it for them to use. But really, it's just a platform where KPI and training is all in one. And so I find that a lot of the times, even to onboard new employees, like an independent practitioner might struggle with that. And so this could be something, at least the background information would be generic, it'd be there, it'd get them up to speed. And the AI can help them, let's say, on front desk, how to answer a phone properly, how to, get that appointment in, how to have a conversation with urgency. So all these little things, even the soft skills can be in there as well, so that depending on where you're lacking with its sales or a certain metric, there would be training involved in there to help support the employees. So it's more of like a operational employee training and engagement platform.
Forward to seeing that come to market and come to fruition. And it sounds like it's been a huge win in your clinic. What else is going on in that office of yours? I know that if I remember correctly, you're pretty big into myopia management, pretty passionate about it. Is that something that you really kind of championed in your practice?
Oh, yeah, 100%. Yeah. Yeah. In Canada, we have like every tool under our tool belt, so we're very lucky. But we're still playing catch up. So we have the soft lenses, we have Ortho K and the glasses. And right now we're kind of in a space where everybody's adopted the glasses in the industry, which is great because I think from an epidemic standpoint, if we really want to tackle myopia as a whole, especially in remote areas or where access to care might be a problem, we should definitely do something rather than nothing. I believe that. But I think there's a lot of information out there that's not correctly being portrayed to the patient, which really hurts me. Like the other day, I had a second opinion come in, a 10-year-old girl, minus 750, minus 150 cell, and she has optometrists in her family. They were a little too far, so she saw someone nearby instead to manage her care. This person told her that contact lenses are not safe she doesn't recommend contact lenses for kids. And it just hurt me because I know if she came earlier and we had done something for her, she would not be in this case. And here I am looking at her retinas and they're super thin, and we should not even be here anymore. So we're kind of in this space where it's good. It's being, everybody's using the tools or the glasses because it's easy. But I do think that we need to have a little bit more education to know that there's other options out there. So if your child is still progressing, ask questions, right? Ask your provider questions, do some research. I think that kind of information needs to be more available.
It's interesting you put it that way too, because in the United States, we don't have an FDA approved, glasses solution. At this point, ophthalmic lenses aren't FDA approved for myopia management in the United States. So it'll be interesting to see when they are, how that shifts other treatment options. And from what I'm hearing from you, a lot of times people take the path of least resistance. Hey, here's a pair of glasses. But soft contact lenses, Ortho K, atropine, those are all tools to have in our toolbox.
Correct. Yeah. And knowing when to refer out and knowing that these are it's not a one size fits all. There are certain treatments that work better in certain scenarios, like depending on the rate of progression, how early the onset is. So there's a little bit of, an art to it. But I think that the worst thing is just telling patients, because you're not comfortable as a practitioner with a certain treatment under your toolbit, to just kind of forbid it. I think you should just, refer it out to somebody, or, when you're not comfortable with that care, because especially in higher populous areas, there's a lot of us that are doing full scope care now. And so we really shouldn't be hearing that. But yeah, I think that's going to happen because for us, we are in the same boat as you, just 5 years earlier. And with myopia management, like we've had MySight for 7 or 8 years now, right? And it's been fantastic. But when the glasses came out, it really helped everyone because, again, it should, because there's an epidemic and we need to treat more people to slow it down. But I think that we should also be knowledgeable to know when to refer those patients out for the best interest of the patient, right?
100%,
Yeah.
especially in an area, as you reference, where there's a lot of different providers and some people that champion it, other people that maybe just kind of dabble in it, and some that don't touch it. So I got to do what's that's right for the patient, for, their long-term eye health and vision care needs. I just want to say I appreciate you taking the time today to share everything that you've shared. If you want to kind of wrap things up with just a few final thoughts about your journey, what you've been up to, and really, what's coming down the pipeline.
Yeah, so my journey, I shifted gears to really step into this leadership role. I have 5 clinics. I have a responsibility to grow every person on my team. So I'm very passionate about that. And not only that, I've been, working with several people in the industry, and they also agree that there is an opportunity that I think that we can share some of this knowledge to help the profession. So that's where I'm at now, is I'm trying to find ways to give back and be able to provide help as best as I can to, our fellow colleagues in optometry and opticianry as well.
Incredible, Fallon. Thank you so much. And for those who want to kind of connect with you and just further tap into your story or all that you have going on, what's the best way for them to do so?
Yeah, you can reach out to me. I'm on Instagram as iDocFallon, EYEDOC Fallon. You can reach out to me, connect with me on LinkedIn as Dr. Fallon Patel. More than happy to connect. If you have any questions, I mean, this is what I live and breathe. I'd be more than happy to bounce ideas off back and forth or be able to provide some insights. So just reach out. Happy to help. Yeah, this is me, and so feel free.
Definitely a great follow, a wealth of knowledge. I appreciate you taking the time today. And for those listening, that's it for today's episode. Make sure you subscribe, follow, like, and stay tuned for my next podcast where we can reflect and grow stronger together.